One of the questions that's been very common lately is the coming of Mashiach. To what extent do we as Jews have to focus on Mashiach? So to try to get into that, we want to focus on the last chapter of Bereshit, where Yaakov Avinu gathers his children, gives them all special blessings, and wants to reveal to them what will happen in the end of days. And right away, when he's about to tell them how things are going to play out, prophecy is taken from him, and then he goes on and gives them blessings. So we want to understand what happened over there. The Rebbe asks a very, very interesting question, and that is, why would Yaakov Avinu want to tell the tribes, his sons, that 3,500 years later Mashiach is going to come? Wouldn't that cause them more despair? And he answers beautifully based on his Zohar, a Kabbalistic text that tells us that the Jewish people had multiple routes. It was up to us to choose when Mashiach would come. The shortest route to the finish line would be leaving Egypt right away and then having the final redemption. And Yaakov Avinu was trying to motivate his children to be strong and take that route. Hashem didn't necessarily want him to push that route, only because in Judaism it's not about reaching the finish line as fast as possible, rather it's about the journey. It's about making the best of the journey. And that was the lesson Hashem taught Yaakov Avinu. When we go through the text and the commentators, we see that Yaakov Avinu did prophesy in many things during that meeting with his children. Some, for example, that are brought down in the Midrash is that he spoke about King David, King Saul, future kings, the final war, Gog and Magog, the temple, and even later leaders in Bavel. So we see Yaakov Avinu was prophesying, and the Zohar even says that he did speak about the final redemption, but just in an encrypted manner. I mean, when we're learning the passages, we have to figure out what the final redemption is through what Yaakov was telling his children. So let's go over a few texts and we'll understand things a bit better. The Rambam writes in L'chot Melachim that until the days of Mashiach, the actual interpretations of the metaphors throughout the prophets will be hidden from mankind. He gives a few examples. One of them, for instance, the passage in Yeshaya that says the wolf will dwell with the lamb, the leopard will lie with the goat. He says that that is pertaining to the Jewish people who are considered like the lamb and the goat, and the leopard and the wolves are all the wicked people that are around us who will eventually realize that Hashem is truth and choose to live righteous lives. We will be able to live with them. But he says for the most part, the prophecies are hidden and concealed and encrypted, and they will only be revealed to us in the end of times. He continues and says that one shouldn't invest too much time on this topic to try to figure things out, and we see that they stay a bit vague. On the other side of things, in Perek Chelek, Rambam's introduction to Mishnayot, he brings the 13 principles of faith that every Jew must have. Principle number 12, which became the famous song Ani Ma'amin, speaks about believing and anticipating at every moment that Mashiach can and will come. When Yaakov Avinu was giving blessings to his kids, the commentators ask, what happened? Because when you look into the passages inside, you see that Yaakov Avinu said, guys, come and gather. I want to tell you what will happen at the end of days. And all of a sudden, he starts giving them rebukes and blessings. And if you look at the blessings, they're very interesting. It's hard to decrypt them. It says, we'll take one example. Pasuk says, Dan, a snake on the road, viper on the path, who bites the horse's heel, and the rider falls backwards. And then Yaakov says, Hashem, I hope for your salvation. What is going on over here? Say the commentator, says the Midrash, that Yaakov Avinu was actually prophesying Shimshon, who fought the Plishtim. Yaakov Avinu thought that he was going to be Mashiach, and while he's prophesying, right, he's giving blessings to his children, he's prophesying, he's on his deathbed, a very, very powerful experience. He sees Shimshon die, and then he says, God, have mercy. So we're talking over here not necessarily about blessings, but we're talking about prophecies. And what comes clear from all of this is that Yaakov Avinu blessings were more of projections of each child's special character and destiny. The Ramban writes that that's what a blessing is. A blessing is taking what already exists and expanding on it. So Yaakov Avinu was looking throughout history, throughout everything the Jewish nation will be going through, our journey, and focusing on the gifts and talents given to each and every single tribe and each and every single Jew, and giving them blessings based on that. And now everything ties in really well, where now we understand that Yaakov Avinu got the message from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that Judaism is about focusing on the journey, making the best of the resources and gifts you were given. And that's what we have to be doing constantly. On one side of things, hoping and anticipating that at any moment Mashiach can and will come, and praying for Mashiach to come. But until that point, We're living in the present, and we're trying to make the best of what we have. The Gemara in Masechet Pesachim says that when Yaakov Avinu lost his prophecy, he thought to himself, maybe one of my children are not worthy. He knew that Abraham had Ishmael, Yitzchak had Esav, and he said maybe the reason the prophecy was taken away was my children are not worthy to hear the prophecies of God. Then all his children gathered and said, Shema Yisrael, listen Yisrael. Yisrael is the name of Yaakov Avinu. Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, God is one. And the words that we're saying to refer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to God, is Hashem Elokeinu, two different names of God. One very well known represents God's attribute of mercy when life is going smooth, and Elokeinu, the tough times. They told Yaakov Avinu, it's fine, we don't need to know when we're going to reach the finish line. We know that it's all about the journey. And we know that there's going to be tough times, but for us, Hashem Echad, it's one. The bad and the good, the tough, it's all one. And Yaakov Avinu replies back to them, Baruch Hashem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. He tells them, you're on point, but there's one point that I want to add to what you guys said, and that is Baruch Hashem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed Mishin Zumot. It means that Hashem's name is one. It's not good and bad. It's all good, Le'olam Va'ed, forever and ever. The Jewish story is a story of forever and ever.